Peace, peace, peace. Good morning, everyone, here on a rainy day in Dallas. This is the third in our installment on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, Chapter 2. And I'd like to start with a quick review. In our last talk in this series, we ended with Sutra 19, which describes the evolution of this cosmos according to the Sankhya cosmology. But why is this important? We see a graph. How does that affect us? So religion speaks about God, but we can't deny this world and our place in it. So we search for a comprehensive philosophy. It's called darshana in Sanskrit, which means to see. Darshana means to look at this universe in a logical, systematic way, in a way that can explain the three basic elements: God, the world, and who am I? So naturally, as spiritual aspirants, we come with a question: what is God? What position does God hold? What hold does God have on the world, on me? How did this world come into being? And lastly, who am I? Am I just an embodied being that lives and dies? According to Sankhya and Yoga, there are two realities, Purusha and Prakriti. And this is how we in Vedanta differ from the setup of the Sankhya system. There's only one reality in Vedanta. In Sankhya, Purushas are infinite in number. And Purusha literally means he who resides in this body. So we, as individuals, in essence, are pure consciousness, existence, bliss. Sometimes Purusha is called the spectator, Drashtar Swarup. Sometimes pure consciousness, Chaitanya Swarup. And sometimes also the witness, Sakshi Swarup. And in this particular case, we are in total sync with the Sankhya system. The Atman is existence, knowledge, and bliss absolute. What is then the relationship between the Purusha, the mind, and Prakriti? In the Spiritual Heritage of India by Swami Prabhupada, and it's a beautiful, systematic book, easy to understand, Swami Prabhupada explains Western psychology regards the mind as intelligent by its inherent nature. The mind is therefore considered to be the thinker, the knower, and to know its own thoughts. According to Sankhya, the antakarana, or mind stuff, comprising intellect, ego, and manas, the component of the mind that receives sense impressions, that's the manas, is in itself non-intelligent. It is the product of Prakriti, which is non-intelligent in character. And it is the instrument which Purusha, the unchanging principle of intelligence, the pure consciousness, illumines so that it appears to be intelligent. In brief, Prabhupada writes, the consciousness of mind is a reflected intelligence, borrowed from Purusha, whose inherent nature is pure consciousness. So that's a very important philosophical point to understand, and we in Vedanta are in complete agreement with that. To better understand this relationship between Purusha and Prakriti, let's take an illustration. When a bar of iron is heated in a furnace, the heat is borrowed not from its own intrinsic nature, but from fire. So, Prabhupada writes, the antakarana, or mind stuff, by its proximity to Purusha, appears intelligent. The real knower of thoughts or objects is not the mind, but Purusha, the principle of intelligence. Now, it takes a while to begin to wrap our heads around this structure of reality. But it's important, very important to really understand its essence. So how is it then that we experience joy and pain? That brings us to Sutra 20. Patanjali tells us, Drashta drishmatra shuddhopi pratyayanupashyaha. The Atman, the experiencer, is pure consciousness. It appears to take on the changing colors of the mind. So in the process of living in this world, we've forgotten our true nature. Drashta, the seer, which is the uninvolved, eternal spectator of this world's drama. Because the mind functions with only a reflected consciousness borrowed from the Purusha, we get mixed up with what we're experiencing in the mind, the drishya, the scene. So how to stop this incessant identification, misidentification with the non-self? We can begin by analyzing how can the seer, the witness, be seen? It cannot. And yet every day we become identified with that which we see, the drishya. And we say, my this and my that, my house, my car, my country, and the list of entanglements goes on, completely veiling our true effulgent nature. We bind it with all of these superimpositions. Instead, a realized soul says, I am the eternal witness. I am pure consciousness. Aham Brahmasmi. Just as sun and its effulgence are inseparable. I'm not attached to anything. Whatever passes before me, I illuminate with the effulgence of my awareness. It is something to remember as often as we can throughout the day. Just as luminosity of light is the cause of my vision functioning, this luminosity is my awareness, like the light shining of the projector as the film passes in front of it, projecting color and form on a screen. The screen appears to have a variety of colors and forms, which we immediately identify with, but the screen in reality remains white. So this is the nature of what is the drishya, the scene, the whole panorama of the universe, perceivable by the five sense organs, prakriti. The screen is white. The screen is Brahman. All of this is projected on Brahman. And when we become self-realized, we realize that all of these forms are but shadows, or they engulf that divine presence within. Our vision changes and we see the reality for what it is. So each of the five sense organs has a particular area in the brain where the effect of that organic contact is transformed by the brain and converted into ideas. And those ideas are what we call chitta vritti, the thought waves of the mind. They can be emotions, memories, thoughts, truncated thoughts. We call them thought waves of the mind. The Purusha shines its light on them with a perceiver, and the perceiver, without thinking, identifies with them. And we think, I'm suffering, I'm glad, I hate this, I hate that, I love this, I love that. Actually, our existence is instead pure, eternal existence. The Purusha remains poised in the glory of its true nature. And when we have that realization, yes, we love, but we love in a different way, not as sense objects, but as those objects that are appearances, but whose divine presence is within. Sutras 21 to 23. Tadartha eva drishasyatma. Patanjali tells us the object of experience exists only to serve the purpose of the Purusha. 22. Kritartam pratinastam apyanastam tadanya sadharanatva. Though Prakriti, the object of experience, becomes unreal to him who has reached the state of liberation, Prakriti remains real to all other beings. Now we'll deconstruct these verses. Third, 23. Swami Shaktyo Swarupo Palabdi Hetu Samyogaha. The Purusha, the experiencer, is identified with Prakriti, the object of experience, in order that the true nature of both Prakriti and Purusha may be known. Okay. Swami Vivekananda succinctly explains Sutra 21. He says the object of experience exists only to serve the purpose of the Purusha. Prakriti has no power of its own. As long as the Purusha is near it, it appears to have power, but the power is borrowed, just as the moon's light is borrowed. According to the yogis, the whole manifested universe has come from Prakriti itself. But Prakriti has no purpose but to free the Purusha. In other words, the value of this world lies in our experience of it. And this may sound bewildering, but as Swami Prabhupada shares, rooted in Maya, we cannot hope to understand Maya or to judge the justice or injustice of its bondage by our little relative ethical standards. All we do know, he says, for certain is this, that the great saints who found liberation did not look back upon their struggles with bitterness or regret. Vivekananda himself wrote, I am glad I was born, glad I suffered, glad I did make big blunders, glad to enter peace. So how can we recondition ourselves to know that we are free beyond the bonds of Prakriti? It all comes back to ourselves. How can we rehabilitate our self-identity from feeling that we are this puny psychophysical being full of faults and imperceptions, misperceptions, to attain our true stainless and effulgent nature, the eternal witness? How can we do this? Well, we can start by analyzing the world around us, the drishya, the scene, that which we are constantly experiencing through our five sense organs. We have habitually established an automatic connection with it as day in and day out. Through so many lifetimes, we have drunk in the world through our five senses. And we have strong likes and dislikes, fears, joys, sorrows. All of these have subsequently grown within us. But now, as yoga aspirants, we must learn the art of how to cut that attachment. How can we do this? Our teachers tell us we can be aware of sense objects, but we need not act upon them. So be aware, but need not act upon them. So this takes the first-hand hard lesson of experience of what this world of Prakriti is. And then from hard experience arises the desire for self-reflection and the need for discrimination and mindfulness to safeguard oneself from becoming again and again entrapped in the arms of Prakriti, to develop that self-reflection, that inwardness, that mindfulness, even in our day-to-day life. It's possible to do that. When these tools are sincerely and properly employed, we can begin to wean ourselves from our addiction to a sensory life. And over time, an interior life will begin to flower and finally take such a hold on our being, we'll begin to see ourselves and others as Chaitanya Swarup. Even if when we're meeting somebody, we try to project that thought on the other person, that changes the whole caliber of the conversation we have with that person. The other person unknowingly changes. Such is the power of using the mind in a positive, constructive form. We begin to see reality covered up by diversity, but we retain a penetrative insight to interact with the spirit in others and within all beings, and no longer with just the form. There's a wonderful example of Girish Ghosh. We like Girish because he boasted there was no sin he had not committed. Okay, so what can an avatar do with such a soul? He was addicted to alcohol and prostitutes. He abused, doubted, challenged Sri Ramakrishna. But the drishya, what Girish had seen and suffered through in his own life, his own egotism, which he acknowledged, his debauched sense life, and the tragedies he had suffered and he was forced to endure, the deaths of his mother when he was only 11 years old, his two sisters, and his firstborn son, finally brought him to a state wherein arose a desire for inquiry. About Sri Ramakrishna, Girish admitted that at times, for no accountable reason, my heart felt drawn towards him by an invisible string. But when he finally surrendered to Ramakrishna, he plainly stated, I won't listen to any advice. I have written cartloads myself. Do something that will transform my life. Sri Ramakrishna was highly pleased with him, and he asked him to recite the hymn, Go into solitude and shut yourself in a cave. Peace is not there. Peace is where faith is, for faith is the root of all. A smile played on Sri Ramakrishna's lips, and Girish felt all his impurities had been removed. But what does this mean for us? As a young Swami, Swami Prabhupada met Girish Ghosh. He used to tell us, I saw Girish dictating a drama in his home, which is now a cultural landmark in Kolkata. I noticed that he would dictate, and then occasionally he would be quiet. He had a bell near him, which he rang occasionally, perhaps to invoke the presence I don't know. Then he would dictate again. Why do I say that he was saintly? Swami asked. Because if you sat in his presence in that room, you could feel a holy atmosphere, like in a shrine room. But when we look at the life of Girish Ghosh, it was his painfully entrenched contact with Prakriti that proved to be his classroom in which he was molded into a spiritual seeker to escape that very net of Maya. So we can use all of this. We can use all of our contacts, all of our experiences, and try to become a philosopher on what it is we are experiencing and why we are experiencing the way we do. In Sutras 22 and 23, Patanjali tells us that the whole purpose of the Drisha, Prakriti, nature, the seeing, is to make the higher self realize that it is entirely separate from Prakriti. When Girish finally realized this through his own painful experiences in life, culminating in the desire and hunger for the grace of an avatar, the world as he knew it in his former debauched life no longer had any hold on him. So if Girish can do this, so can we. Swami Vivekananda tells us, when the soul Purusha knows this, nature has no more attractions for it, but the whole of nature vanishes only for that individual who has become free. Sutras 24 and 25. Patanjali tells us, Tasya hetur avidya. This identification of Purusha with Prakriti is caused by ignorance. Tad abhavat samyoga bhavo hanam tad trishe koivalyam. When ignorance has been destroyed, this false identification ceases. Then bondage is at an end, and the experiencer is independent and free. Now, Vivekananda summarizes the cause of our ignorance. He says, through ignorance, we have joined ourselves with a particular body and thus opened ourselves to misery. This idea of body is a simple superimposition. It is superstition that makes us happy or unhappy. It is superstition caused by ignorance that makes us feel heat and cold, pain and pleasure. It is our business to rise above this superstition, and the yogi shows us how we can do this. So we can catch ourselves in every situation and remind ourselves that this is superstition. When traveling in Cairo with Emma Telve and other friends, Vivekananda shared this lesson with recipients under very unusual circumstances. The party had lost its way, and the members found themselves in a squalid, ill-smelling street where half-clad women lolled from windows and sprawled on doorsteps. Vivekananda noticed nothing until a noisy group of women on the bench in the shadows of a dilapidated building began laughing and calling out to him. A lady in the travel party tried to hurry Vivekananda along, but Vivekananda detached himself gently from the group and approached the women on the bench. Poor child, he said, poor creatures. They have put their divinity into their bodies. Look at them now. He began to weep. Just as Jesus might have done before the woman taken in adultery, the women were silenced and abashed. One of them leaned forward and kissed the hem of his robe, murmuring brokenly in Spanish, Hombre de Dios, man of God. In Sutra 25, Vivekananda, in his Raja Yoga commentary, famously summarizes the goal of religion. He said, according to yoga philosophy, it is through ignorance that the soul has been joined with nature. The aim is to get rid of nature's control over us. That is the goal of all religions. He went on, each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest its divinity within by controlling nature, external and internal. Do this either by work or worship or psychic control or philosophy, by one or more or all of these, and be free. This is the whole of religion. And that is why we have the 4 yogas at our disposal. If one doesn't work, we try the other in any given circumstance. He goes on, doctrines or dogmas or rituals or books or temples or forms are but secondary details. But Vivekananda could also expose, or not of ignorance, the juncture of Purusha and Prakriti, the juncture of our true self with this body-mind complex, with a simple, down-to-earth teaching. One day, he told Miss Josephine MacLeod, his disciple and one of his greatest benefactors. She and 2 other disciples of Vivekananda passed away in our Vedanta Society of Southern California. She was quite a character. He told her, always remember, you are incidentally an American and a woman, but always a child of God. Tell yourself day and night who you are. Never forget it. Sutra 26. Viveka kyatir aviplava anopayaha. The means of the destruction of ignorance is the unbroken practice of discrimination. We all have this. We all have this within us. Vivekananda tells us, this is the goal practice, discrimination between the real and the unreal. Knowing that the Purusha is not nature, that it is neither matter nor mind, and that because it is not nature, it cannot possibly change. It is indestructible. It is only nature which changes, combining and recombining, dissolving continually. When through constant practice we begin to discriminate, ignorance will vanish, and the Purusha will begin to shine in its real nature, omniscient, omnipotent, and omnipresent. Sri Ramakrishna was very practical minded and altered his teachings to suit each devotee. To businessmen, he counseled them how to discriminate in a proactive way that they could assimilate and practice. He said, anger and lust cannot be destroyed, he said. Turn them toward God. If you must feel desire and temptation, then desire to realize God. Feel tempted by him. Discriminate and turn the passions away from worldly objects. When the elephant is about to devour a plantain tree in someone's garden, the mahout strikes it with his iron-tipped goad. How practical Sri Ramakrishna was. Sutra 27. Tasya saptada prantabhumi pragya. The experiencer gains this knowledge in 7 stages, advancing toward the highest. So this is a psychological development. The first step. The central instrument is the mind, which aspirants must project toward their physical, emotional, rational, and spiritual development. And with this mind, the first step is with discrimination and strong determination that we must strive to know what is to be known. What is the reality behind the appearance I'm facing right here and now? And when that transpires, the mind will cease to feel dissatisfied. There's never a dull moment when we begin to take up this practice in great earnest. Vain is our search for knowledge if we don't understand that all knowledge is within ourselves. However, when Sri Ramakrishna asked Narayan what he wanted, and Narayan replied, "It is my desire to remain absorbed in samadhi continually for 3 or 4 days, only once in a while coming down to the sense plane to eat a little food." What did Sri Ramakrishna say? Sri Ramakrishna replied, "You are a small-minded person. There is a state higher even than that. All that exists art thou. It is you who sing that song. Settle your family affairs and then come to me. You will attain a state higher than samadhi." And this is the state of Vijnana, which the avatar, his Ishvarakotis, attain to and are therefore able to teach the world. Swami Sarvagatananda once explained, he was a disciple of Swami Akhandananda, founder of the Boston and Providence Centers, and a great holy man. He said, "The highest is when you see in all, see with open eyes what you see in samadhi. If with open eyes you don't see the truth, and if you see it only in your meditation, that is not truth. The truth must be non-contradictory. Whether with open eyes or with closed eyes, you must see the same truth." And it's possible for us to have a part of that experience in our own lives. For if, in fact, any one of us has a glimpse of Brahman, when we come back to the world, we see this world in a different way. It changes us. That experience lives within us. In other words, our realization must be in tune with the whole of existence. Little problem here with my cursor. Can you come? Oh, there we go. Thank you. Swami Vivekananda said, "The first sign that we are getting near truth will be that dissatisfied state will vanish. We shall feel quite sure that we have found the truth and that it cannot be anything else but the truth. Then we may know that the sun is rising, that the morning is breaking for us, and taking courage, we must persevere until the goal is reached." Now we come to the second stage. That is the absence of pain. Through a higher state of consciousness, we know that pain is a mere mental agitation. Sri Krishna states in the Gita, yoga is the breaking of the contact with pain. Swami Prabhupada in his Gita commentary explained there are 2 planes of consciousness. On one, we experience pleasure and pain, life and death, and all other pairs of opposites. If we cross the borderline to the other plane, we experience a complete severance from pain and suffering. So we have seen how great yogis, such as Swami Turiyananda, a devotee of the Divine Mother, as well as a highly advanced Advaitin, he came to this country. He established the Shanti Ashrama in Northern California, which is under the Vedanta Society in Northern California. Beautiful 300-acre retreat where you can still feel the vibration that was left there. He was able to withdraw the mind from the body and center it in the Atman, pure state of consciousness. In the book, God Lived with Them by Swami Chaitananda, we read, he then watches his own body like a witness. In Varanasi, when a doctor operated on Turiyananda's finger, the attendant asked, don't you feel any pain? And the Swami replied, look, the mind is like a child. We must hold it tight. But like a youngster, it will go on crying, let me go, let me go. Once in the midst of surgery, I let my mind get loose, and immediately I felt intense pain. The surgery was not finished, so I had to catch hold of the mind once more. The third stage is the attainment of samadhi, whereupon this universe disappears. In Shankara's Vivekachudamani, the crest jewel of discrimination, the disciple who experiences this state describes, my mind fell like a hailstone into that vast expanse of Brahman's ocean. Touching one drop of it, I melted away and became one with Brahman. And now, though I return to human consciousness, I abide in the joy of the Atman. Where is this universe? Who took it away? Has it merged into something else? A while ago, I beheld it. Now it exists no longer. This is wonderful indeed. Here is the ocean of Brahman, full of endless joy. How can I accept or reject anything? Is there anything apart or distinct from Brahman? Now finally and clearly I know that I am the Atman, whose nature is eternal joy. I see nothing. I hear nothing. I know nothing that is separate from me. The fourth stage is when a man or woman of samadhi returns to so-called normal consciousness. But this consciousness differs from the kind that we all experience. Swami Pravrajika explained in his Yoga Sutra commentary. He described the state of a self-realized jnani. To one who has achieved samadhi, the external world is known to be merely an appearance. In Shankara's phrase, it is and is not, just like a mirage. It is and it is not. The man of illumination no longer identifies the external world with the Atman. He sees that it is only a reflection of the Atman, not indeed utterly unreal, since it is projected by the reality, yet lacking substance and independent existence, like an image in a mirror. The state of a Vijnani, as described in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, is the knower of truth sees the world in a special and a very rich sense. He sees Brahman not only in himself and in the transcendental absolute, but in everything of the world. In this state of Vijnana, sometimes bereft of body consciousness, Sri Ramakrishna would regard himself as one with Brahman. Sometimes conscious of the dual world, he would regard himself as God's devotee, servant, or child. Sri Ramakrishna himself explained, The Vijnani who is more intimately acquainted with Brahman realizes something more. He realizes that the steps are made of the same materials as the roof, bricks, lime, and brick dust. That which is realized intuitively as Brahman through the eliminating process of not this, not this, is then found to have become the ego, the universe, and all living beings. So in both of these two states of consciousness, illumined souls know they are no longer bound by duty or obligation. Two after effects of samadhi. Sri Krishna simply prescribes such a free soul in the Gita, chapter 6, verse 3. His acts fall from him. She no longer owns her actions. However, though unmotivated by selfish desire, an illumined soul will often continue to serve humankind by teaching others. The fifth stage is freedom of the chitta. All difficulties and struggles have fallen away from such a soul. All tendencies of the subconscious mind have been purified, resolved, and silenced, removing all tendency for acts of compulsion. Swami Prabhupada explains, the mind has been the instrument and the world the object of experience, whereby the experiencer has come to know the Atman, his real nature. In other words, the mind has been used to transcend the mind. It's possible for us. The sixth stage is that the stored up mental impressions and the gunas of the mind melt away forever. Rajas guna, activity, tamaguna, inertia, even sattva guna. So what does this mean? Swami Sarvagatananda explains, the seer is said to have contentless consciousness. That is why the mind stuff, the subconscious mind, melts away. But how does it happen? The light of the Atman, unlimited awareness, as it shines, it melts away all contents in the mind of a seer. So it's such an effulgence that comes forward. All other obstacles vanish. The seventh and final stage is eternal existence in union with the Atman. That means there is no returning from samadhi to partial sensory consciousness. And there is no longer identification with the mind. Vivekananda describes for us, neither body nor mind was ever related, much less joined to us. They were working their own way, and we, through ignorance, joined ourselves to them. But we have been alone, omnipotent, omnipresent, ever blessed. Our own self was so pure and perfect that we required none else. We required none else to make us happy. For we are happiness itself. We shall find that this knowledge does not depend on anything else. Throughout the universe, there can be nothing that will not become effulgent before our knowledge. This will be the last state, and the yogi will become peaceful and calm, never to feel any more pain, never to be again deluded, never to be touched by misery. He will know he is ever blessed, ever perfect, almighty. Sutra 28, we're coming to the end now. Yogan Banusthana Ashuti Kshaye Jnana Diktir Aviveka Jyate. As soon as all impurities had been removed by the practice of spiritual disciplines, the limbs of yoga, when spiritual vision opens to the light-giving knowledge of the Atman. Now, the previous verse delineates the ideal, but the following verses are the practical disciplines we can follow to attain the goal. Patanjali will next give a detailed description of the yamas, abstentions, and niyamas, observances, to clear the mind of its impurities. That will be in the next installment. But now, as a quick review, knowledge does not have to be sought. It is already there within us. Ye divinities on earth, Vivekananda told us, it is a sin to call a person a sinner. So the sole pursuit of spiritual disciplines is to remove the obstacles to that knowledge. And the beauty of Raja Yoga is that aspirants have the right to question every step of the way. Not only the right, but we must question. Otherwise, how do we own the spiritual tradition? How do we make it our own? We have to question, we have to understand, we have to shravana, manana, nididhyasana. Think about it, make it our own. So we're dealing with the mind, so we must keep it alert and mindful. In the first chapter of the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali deals with what is samadhi, the stages of realization. In the second chapter, he deals with the sadhana, practical application of those ideas, out of which we develop strong intellectual conviction. That's what we need. That gives us energy to pursue our spiritual life. So every successful pursuit, branch of science, anything in life is based on a solid intellectual foundation. And with that foundation, we try to transform and manage the forces of nature in material science, aparavidya. But as the aspirant, we try to manage the force of nature within ourselves, paravidya. When I'm angry, upset, jealous, lazy, depressed, forces working within me, which I have no control over, we turn to yoga. Why did Patanjali take up the samadhi pada first? Samadhi is the inner control of the movement of the mind. Now, most of us are partially introspective, is it not? Or we wouldn't be here. The teacher first takes up the principles that will attract the extrovert. Samadhi in the first chapter. That captivates us. But in the second chapter, the extrovert realizes that without sadhana, practicing concentration and control of the mind, there is no escape from samsara. So what is samadhi? How can we practice it in our day-to-day affairs? And how to achieve that desired goal? Our pursuit must be based on relentless logic. Don't believe everything that you hear. Test it for yourself. Struggle with it until you understand. What cannot stand daylight of reason should be thrown out. Depend on your own rationality, and that in turn grows in your own self-motivation. How do I attain it? If an introvert, I pay attention to the movement of the mind while I interact with the external world. What are the necessary disciplines so that our action is result-oriented, leading to samadhi? Sutra 24. Tasya hetur avidya. Some yoga takes place due to avidya. Some yoga is the lack of our capacity to tear apart two things that have come together. But through self-culture, we learn to separate them by our understanding. It can happen. It can happen this very day. Spiritual self-culture means awareness of our own nature, and avidya has been removed. Sutra 25. Tad abhavat samyoga bhavo hanam Tadrishe Kaivalyam. When ignorance has been destroyed, this identification ceases. The bondage is at an end, and the experiencer, the seer, is independent and free. How can this be achieved? In Sutra 26, Patanjali wrote, Viveka Tyatir Abhiplava Panopayaha. The means of destruction of ignorance is by the unbroken practice of discrimination. How do we practice discrimination? Let's remember Sutra 217, chapter 2, verse 17, when Patanjali tells us, Drashtri drashtar samyogo heya hetuhu. This pain is caused by the false identification of the experiencer with the object of experience. What is discrimination? The faculty of the intellect to separate two things, into two separate, clear-cut compartments. Patanjali has been teaching the difference between the drashtar, the seer, and the drishya, the seen. This world, including our body and mind, and some yoga, our inability to separate these two things that have become conjoined. Drashtar is the eternal, unattached, ever-aware, pure consciousness that we truly are. So we must fix our conviction on that. I am the seer. I am what I am. Aham Brahmasmi. Fix your attention on this faculty of intellect known as discrimination. Drisha, Prakriti, the object of experience, what is transitory, unreal, and changeful. We know that. We understand between the drashtar, the seer, and the drishya, the seen, with the power of our own intellect and logic. And we insert that logic when we're in a crisis, or even when we're walking through our everyday life. Then we use the uninterrupted discriminative faculty, not 1 minute a day, but we use it throughout the day. And thereby, our mind is strengthened, our conviction grows, and our life becomes a blessing to ourselves and to others. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Good morning. Grab my mic here. So can everybody hear me okay? Okay. So we will continue on with our the physical practice of the asanas today. And so I will just tell you my thoughts about the verses that Brahmaprana covered today, not all of them, but the way that I am distilling them into a physical practice today. So I just kind of entitled this practice today as We Are Divine Awareness and Individual Experiences, Moving Wisdom to Enlightenment Through Discrimination. So we're going to continue with our practice of feeling our bodies through movement and shape while discriminating between our felt sense and our witnessing consciousness. Understanding that our experience is always subjective, but who we are in reality is objective as well as subjective. Witnessing consciousness without judgment is a doorway to the truth of ourselves. The body in this practice becomes the object of our witnessing, not the subject. We accept for this practice today that the body is the gift we've been offered as an object for the development of our discriminating factor, the buddhi, just as the mantra is the gift of the guru that assists us on our journey to knowing the truth of who we are. And as how to know God, and I think Brahmaprana referenced this as well. The mind has been used to transcend the mind, just as we use a ladder to transcend a ladder. So in what we're doing with these asanas is using the body to transcend the body, as we know we're not the body, and yet we live in this body on this experience. So with that, let's close our eyes. Find a comfortable position in which you're not leaning up against the back of your chair, but rather sitting up tall, using your core muscles to create structure for your breath. And then join with me, if you will, on the intention of being aware of our judgments about your experience and to shift from judgment to witnessing alone. This is your laboratory for discovering your true self. So we'll go through a body scan just as we've done the previous 2 sessions as a way to get in touch with the body and where it is in this moment. So feeling your feet on the ground, feeling the backs of your legs on your chair, feeling your hands and whatever's underneath them. Allow yourself to feel the support of those points of contact. Move into a place of witnessing your experience and notice anytime you move towards judging your experience. And see if you can just let that go without judging the judging. And continue to just feel what is there. So move your awareness now from your feet up through your lower legs. Your knees. Your thighs. Feel both legs together. All the way through your toes. I'm aware of your hips and whatever is there today. Come up through your low back, your mid back, and your upper back. Be aware of your whole back. Notice what's present, what sensations, memories, colors, whatever floats up into your conscious mind. Notice it without attaching to it. And then move your awareness to the front of your torso, your belly. Are you holding tension in your belly? The solar plexus, the chest. Notice the chest, particularly the center of your chest. The shoulders, down through your arms and into your hands. Just feel your hands. And then move back up into your neck and throat. And then into the head. Feel your whole head. Go behind your eyes. Are the eyes tense? Can you relax the muscles behind the eyes? I'm aware of your forehead, flesh. Relax the muscles behind the forehead. Become aware of the brain. Penetrate with your awareness deep inside the brain, deep into the middle of the brain, and then move your awareness to the back of the brain. Notice how your experience changes as you go to different parts of the body. And as you keep your awareness at the back of the brain, let yourself be aware of the whole back of your body. Just feel the whole back of your body. Now, we'll take 3 full breaths. So exhale completely. Inhale through your nostrils to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. Exhale through pursed lips. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now let go of your controlled breathing and breathe naturally. Notice any shift in the mind in this short practice. And any positive, and when I say positive, I just mean more pleasant emotion or sensation. Allow that to fill up your consciousness as much as you can. If there are negative feelings that have come up, and there often are, please try to give space to those. Allow them. And just know they're there to help you. So we're going to now move into the postures. And just as we've done in the previous 2 sessions, I just request that you really take that non-judgmental awareness, witnessing your experience, and going as deeply into the felt sense as you can without identifying with your body. Okay, so this is a practice. It's not necessarily something that comes real naturally because we're so identified with our body. So it is a practice, and you've already had quite a bit just in the times that you've been here. So just continue with what you've been doing. So put this down. And I hope I'm speaking loud enough that you can hear me. Can you hear me back in the very back? Okay. Okay. So let's just bring our hands together at our heart. This is a classic position in most all spiritual traditions. And there's a reason why this particular shape has been adopted. And we don't even really need to know the intellectual reason, although that can be interesting. But what we're more interested in today is what bhavana, or what mood state, tends to come into the mind just through this shape. So feel your hands pressing into one another gently, and feel the base of your thumb touching the heart center. Close any space between your fingers and draw the thumbs back towards the heart. Relax your elbows and your shoulders and draw your shoulders gently back a little bit and in towards the ribs. Turn your eye gaze towards your heart center. And just take a few breaths here. Let go of trying to figure out what you feel and feel what you're feeling. Now to yourself, add Om to your exhale internally. So just with each of your next 3 exhales, silently chant Om and place the sound of Om into the center of your chest and notice. And then release the hands to your thighs and just roll your shoulders. From rolling the shoulders into cat-cow, joining our breath to our movement. So take the shoulders back and down. And as you do, arch your back, inhale. Let your eye gaze turn upward. And as you exhale, round your back, tuck your chin, turn your eye gaze towards the heart. Inhale, take the spine in, look upwards. Exhale, and take the gaze to the heart. And just continue about 5 more times with your breath. And moving your eyes upwards towards the sky and back down to the heart. And let this be the last one. And upon the completion of the exhale, come back to mountain pose. Keep your eyes closed or at least soft. And just notice what's there. So a big part of this practice is noticing the thoughts that go through, that pull you out of your body. And when you notice that, just to come back to the body. So we'll side bend. So just taking one arm over the ear. So when you do these poses daily, like anything that we do daily, and they become very mechanistic. And we think of it as boring. So what we really want to try to do is keep a beginner's mind. So take both arms up and exhale to the other side. So the mind is more likely to jump in when you get used to doing something. And that's when the real practice, the real work of the practice begins. Take both arms up. We'll go back to the right again. Notice what you feel. Notice judgments that may come up. Inhale, come up. Exhale, go to the other side. Notice if your breath is continuing. Come up, both arms. And then we're going to twist around to the right. And sit tall. Notice your breath. Inhale, take the arms up. Exhale, take them to the other side. Notice your eye movement. So the eyes want to move around the room. And that's one of the reasons why many times we do this with our eyes closed. So inhale, come up, and that's certainly an option, and turn back to the right. But you may want to try both ways. And if you choose to keep your eyes open, see if you can keep your eye gaze soft and kind of wide through the corners of your eyes, as opposed to staring or focusing on any one thing. Just soft eyes. Sometimes we call them Buddha eyes. Inhale, take the arms up. Exhale, left side. Eyes and our thoughts are closely related. The eyes are moving, thoughts are moving, and vice versa. Inhale, put the arms up. Exhale, release the arms. Close the eyes if they're open. Take a free breath. And then take the legs a little wide, and we'll circle the hips. So again, this is where the eyes really do want to kind of go in different directions. So you may want to try this if it doesn't make you dizzy, to do this with your eyes closed and stay in your body with your experience. And then reverse and go in the opposite direction. And then return back to mountain pose. Eyes closed, free breath. Really take advantage of these moments where you're doing nothing. Okay. And then you can keep your eyes closed if you can follow what I'm saying without watching me. But if you feel like you need to see what I'm doing, then by all means, use your eyes. Inhale, take the arms up. Exhale, bow. Inhale, come halfway up. Arch your back, look up. If you've got your eyes open, or just take your eye gaze up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, take your arms all the way up. Exhale, bring your hands to your heart. Inhale, take the arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, hands to the knees, arch your back. Exhale, fold. Inhale, take the arms all the way up. Exhale, hands to the heart. Inhale, take the arms up. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway up, arch. Exhale, round your back now. Inhale, arch your spine. Exhale, round your spine. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, hands to the heart. Bow your head. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bow. Inhale, hands to the knees, arch. Exhale, bow. Inhale, arms all the way overhead. Exhale, hands to the heart. One more like that. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, bow. Inhale, halfway up, inhaling. Exhale, bow. Inhale, arms all the way up. Now exhale, bring your hands to the sides of your chair. Pull your elbows back, arch. Exhale, round. Inhale, arch. Cobra pose. Exhale, round. One more time, inhale, arch. And exhale, round. Come back to mountain pose. Take a free breath. Observe your body. Recognize the body as something that you're witnessing, observing, as though you've never seen a body or been in a body. What is this experience like? What is this experience for you? Now, take your arms by your side, and we're going to take the arms by the ears and lean forward. Now, get your weight into your feet and push and stand all the way up. And then lean back and sit back down. Inhale, take the arms up, lean forward, get your weight into your feet, straighten your knees, and then reverse it. Chair pose to mountain pose. Chair pose to mountain pose. One more time. This time, stand up, stay up. Okay, bring the arms down. So come behind your chair. I think everybody's got room to come behind their chair. Just gonna just put your hands on the back of your chair, and we're gonna come up onto the toes, really lift the heels and feel the legs. Exhale, come down. Inhale up, feel those heels lift. Really make your heels come higher than they just naturally do. Feel the backs of the legs lifting and coming down. Lifting and coming down. Now, if you want to challenge your balance, you could take one arm up as you do it, and then the other arm up. And if you want to really challenge your balance, try taking both arms up and back down. And again, you do your arms however you like, whatever works for you. Come up. And last one, coming up. Hold it up. Feel. Don't stop breathing. Just hold the shape. Feel the backs of the legs. And then release. Now step your right foot a little forward and your left leg a little back. And bend your front knee while keeping your back leg straight. Feel the back of the left leg. Try to lift your chest up. Lifting your heart center, but keep your eye gaze either slightly forward and down or towards your heart center. And then again, if you want to challenge your balance, you could take one arm up, really reach that arm so you stretch this side. And if you like, you can also take the other arm up. Warrior one. Breathe. So anytime you're holding, you're not holding your breath. You're holding the shape and noticing what happens when you just be still in a shape that you're not accustomed to staying in. Now, bring your hands back to the back of your chair. Lean forward and put your hands onto the chair arms. Straighten your front leg and just lift the left foot off the floor a little bit. Yeah, sorry if you don't have room. Just do the best you can. Try to lift your navel up a little bit. Just draw your navel towards your spine and then draw your chest forward. Keep your eye gaze soft. Just notice what you feel. Warrior three. Now bend your front knee and gently place that left foot back on the ground. Hands to the back of your chair. Straighten your front leg and step in. Mountain pose. Notice any shifts in your body. Anything that changes. You don't need to know what any of it means. You're just the observer. So left leg forward, right leg back. Keep that right leg completely straight. Focus on the outer heel, pressing the outer heel of the right foot down. bend the left knee. Warrior one. And then if you like, one arm up. As you take an arm up or both arms up, if you choose to do that, put more of your awareness into your feet, pushing down and lifting up from your pelvic floor through to your chest, through the crown of your head. And breathe. Soft eyes. And we sometimes work up to holding these poses 3 to 5 minutes at a time. We're not doing that today. This is a sort of meditation on the body. And then we'll bring the hands down, come forward, straighten your left leg and lift your right leg up. Draw up on your navel, chest lifts, relax your shoulders, and breathe. And then step back, hands to the back of your chair, and step your right foot forward back into mountain pose. So now standing without support, try to bring your body into what feels like good posture to you. What makes you feel dignity? What makes you feel alive and open? And then we'll come back to sit in our chair again. One of the most important parts of a yoga practice is the practice of shavasana. Does anybody know what shavasana is? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, it's the most well-known posture in yoga. So shavasana is corpse pose. So it is the practice of just being, okay? We generally do it lying on the floor. So, a little more difficult in the chair. But nevertheless, it's a practice of just being. So we're going to practice shavasana for a moment by just closing our eyes and feeling where we are, witnessing our experience, opening ourselves to the experience that we are having, including the thoughts that flow through, including whatever is there, without judgment. Also letting go of preference. We're letting go of whether we like what we experienced or we didn't. It doesn't mean you won't have those thoughts. It just means that you don't attach yourself and give meaning to those thoughts. You notice, just like any other piece of information, and you let it move on. So as you're in your shavasana, I'm going to ask you to reflect on these questions. In general, how do I feel about this body that is my vehicle on this journey? Do I have a healthy, realistic relationship with the body, or am I in some kind of war with it? How did I experience my body when I witnessed it objectively? And finally, how can I improve my relationship with the body for the purpose of my spiritual growth? So take a nice, full, deep breath. And another. And one more. And then joining your hands together at your heart, bowing your head. Thank yourself for taking this time. And please offer some gratitude towards your body for all that it does for you on this journey. May we have faith to know the divine enriches us, invigorates us, is present with us throughout our day. Namaste. Thank you.